In today's video, we're going to be covering how to pick the perfect color palette for your website and brand. We're going to dive into a few techniques that we use for our clients and a few that you can explore to create your own beautiful color palette. Hey guys, I'm Krista Jones from Davey & Krista, where we help you build a brand that books. I'm going to share 3 of our favorite ways to generate color palettes for our clients. And these are techniques that you can use whether you have fancy software like the Adobe Suite or just internet access. But before we get started, make sure that you hit subscribe and thumbs up on this video so that you get access to our future videos. And if you have any questions, just drop those in the comments below. So what is a color palette? A color palette is a group of colors that is used consistently throughout your brand. So you'll see these colors repeated in your logo, in any print collateral, on your website, on social media. And when used together, they help create brand cohesiveness, brand unity, and they can attract the right people to your business. Color palettes help set the overall aesthetic for a brand, and it's important to choose colors that are really going to have a high impact on attracting your ideal client. So, how do we come up with color palettes? We start all of our color palettes by creating a visual mood board, and we'll dive into the exact steps that we use to create that mood board in another video. But for purposes of this video, it's important to know that in order to generate the kinds of images that we use in that mood board, we ask our clients a few key questions. We want to know about their ideal client. So, where their ideal client shops, how they spend their free time, where they travel on vacation. And when we know all of those things about their ideal client, we can start searching for images that match those answers. So for example, if one of our clients tells us that their ideal client shops at high-end boutiques that carry brands like Chanel, they travel to Paris, they spend their Sunday afternoons exploring art at the Met, we can then do visual searches for Paris, for Chanel, for Metropolitan Museum of Art, and then use those images to generate a color palette. Pinterest is a really great way to gather those images, and oftentimes when you have them gathered together in a single pin board, you'll start to see trends among the images, especially color trends. One of my favorite search tips is to put in the name of a brand, so something like Chanel, plus the word email into a Pinterest search. Because while websites generally have to have pretty consistent look and feel, and a website itself may not have as much fun and variety as a brand actually has, especially brands like Anthropologie and J.Crew and Banana Republic. You can really learn a lot about the colors and the fonts and the overall aesthetic that a big brand, is using to attract their ideal clients by doing a search for what they're using in their emails. And then in turn, you can take that email and use it as inspiration for your brand. And that can help you figure out which colors and which aesthetic you're going to use to attract your client. We like to search for images of homes and interior design and wardrobe and outfits and fashion and art and locations and travel, and we'll pull all of those images together in a Pinterest board. And if you find a few images that you really like and that you really think are fitting the brand that you want to create, you can even click on them on Pinterest and scroll down, and then it's going to show you similar images. So this might help you find even more images that you like, even more colors or more fonts or more patterns that you hadn't even considered before, but that Pinterest thinks are relevant to the image that you're looking at. And so that's a really great way to come up with a big batch of images that you can draw inspiration from. When we're doing searches like this, we generally try to avoid pinning any logos or websites, or especially like any brand visuals from our clients' competitors, just because we want to make sure that what we're creating is truly unique for our clients. And we often find that we're more creative when we draw from just the overall pool of images as opposed to exploring very specific like design trends and design details. So for this Coco Chanel inspired mood board, if we look at the images together as a batch, I'm seeing a lot of grays and blacks and like light golds and tans and neutral colors. And so from here, our team likes to download these images and pull them together in a mood board, and we will talk more about that process in our mood board video. But for now, just know that we use these images that we gathered to create a color palette. If you have at least one color already in mind for your brand, you can auto-generate a color palette based on that color. One of my favorite ways to do this is through Adobe Illustrator and their color guide palette. So if you have Adobe Illustrator, open up a new document and add your color in any old shape on a canvas. From there, you can open up the color guide and start exploring other palettes. You can explore monochromatic, complementary, analogous. There's a whole lot of options in here, and they give you lighter and darker versions of different colors. I really love the variety that Adobe gives you when you're exploring colors, and I think that you can come up with a really dynamic color palette just creating based off of one color. If you don't have Adobe Illustrator, there are also a lot of online color generators that you can try. For example, on coolors.com, you can explore popular color palettes, or you can populate your own based on a particular color. So type in your hex code and then lock it, and then you can hit the generate button and start looking at all sorts of different color options. If you adjust the shade of a color, any colors that are not locked are going to adjust as well. And this is going to help ensure that colors stay the same intensity, the same brightness, and just generally look good together. You can adjust the brightness or saturation or warmth together collectively. And then you can also test for color blindness, which is pretty important if you know that you're going to use these colors on a website. You don't want to pick a color for your body copy, for example, that doesn't have a lot of contrast in it and is really hard for people who are colorblind to read. While this doesn't have as many options as Adobe Illustrator, I do think it's a really great free resource to try. Adobe also has a really great online free tool that you can try. So just like with Coolors, you can put in a color and then search for monochromatic, analogous, and other complementary colors based on your particular color. I like with Adobe that if you adjust one point on the color wheel, the other ones are going to adjust as well. So again, this helps ensure that your colors are adjusting the brightness and the intensity collectively, and they're going to look a little bit better together than if you were just to choose a whole lot of random colors. I'm also going to list a few other free online color palette generators in the notes below. And just a word of warning, I recommend using these color palette generators as a base for creating your color palette, because in general, you're going to want to make sure that you're looking for a variety of colors for your brands. Most brands need a range of darker colors and lighter colors. Darker colors are going to be needed for things like typography and maybe your logo so that text is readable, whereas lighter colors might be used for backgrounds of canvases of websites or for background of print material. If you had a whole palette of bright colors, it'd be really hard for anything to show up on top of those bright colors. So you want to make sure that you're always including a mix of colors in your color palette. All right, my third technique. If you don't have any colors in mind already, but you have an image that you really love, that you really feel like represents your brand, you can actually generate a color palette from an image. I will say that this is probably the most limited method, but if you have no idea where to even begin, this is a great method to help you find a few colors to start using in your color palette. And then if you use this method with the other two I talked about, I think it can help you create a really dynamic range of colors for your brand. So if we head back to coolors.com, they will let you upload an image and then pick one color from that image to add to a color palette that you've already been working on. So if you have colors and you really like where you're going, but you feel like you need a few more and you know that those colors appear in a particular image, that's a great way to add more. Or you can upload an image and then generate a palette from that image. So that's going to give you a brand new, fresh palette straight from the image. I'm also a big fan of the Adobe online image generator. So you drag in an image from your desktop and it's going to generate a color palette based on the samples of colors it sees in that image. But one thing that's really cool about the Adobe one is that you can move the points around to sample different colors. And so I think that you can create some really beautiful color palettes this way, just using one single image. Adobe also makes it easy to do brighter versions of your palette, more pastel versions, and really change the variety of the tones that you're working with. And so that's another really great way to create variety within some existing colors. You can always go lighter or darker or brighter and create more colors to use in your brand while keeping within the same kind of color family. Canva also has an online color palette generator, although I'll warn you, it's probably the most limited of the three that I've shared. And then there's a few more that I found online that I will share in the notes below. Okay, there you have it. Hopefully one or a combination of these techniques is going to help you go from no color palette to a color palette that you love and that your clients love on your website or brand. If you want a free template to help you work on your brand aesthetic, just click on the link in the notes below. And if you're wondering where to go from here, check out our video on how to create the perfect visual brand for your business. If you have any additional questions or anything you'd like us to cover in the future, just drop it in the comments below. And make sure that you like and subscribe to get future updates from us. Thanks, guys.